Ask Reddit Americans, what is your insurance horror story? My father got hospitalized for a week from heart failure. Literally guaranteed death without getting medical help. Lungs were filled with fluid, and he was effectively drowning. Insurance decided that the entire stay was completely unwarranted because, according to them, it didn't seem like he was sick enough. They didn't want to cover anything relating to it. While we were eventually successful, it took years to fight. Bill was in the six figures. It took years to fight. This is the underlying theme of all of these stories. While at the end it gets sorted out and handled, it takes so much time and effort, and probably money to get it sorted. And God forbid you don't say the right thing the first time. You're going to be bounced between all of these different people who don't know anything about your situation except what they can read on a little profile screen with notes that you yourself can never actually read to make corrections or clarify anything. My dad is an oncologist, and he says there has been an uptick in the number of arbitrary denials by insurance companies for claims that should absolutely be covered under the patient's plan. When they're appealed, they'll often eventually be approved. But the whole process moves really slow, which can be a death sentence given early treatment is critical when dealing with cancer. It almost seems like the insurance companies are delaying stuff on purpose, in the hopes that the patient will die before they have to pay for treatment. And you might think that providers could just push forward with treatment when they are 100% sure it is necessary, and just worry about getting insurance to pay later. But that's exactly why insurers require prior authorization. So that even when they're wrong, you can't forge ahead with treatment to save or preserve quality of life, or the insurer won't pay. 2008 went into hospital for ruptured intestine due to Crohn's. Airlifted to Mayo Clinic high on fentanyl for the pain. Spent a month in hospital, came out with no colon, and looking like a Holocaust survivor. Wife felt like something was wrong, went into Obgyn to check on baby. No heartbeat at 8 months. They induced labor. Buried son. Received a bill for $110 and K for Mayo Clinic, which the insurance company denied. Received a bill for $20 and K for abortion, which the insurance company denied. Spent 4 months of daily calls with hospital and insurance company fighting charges all the way down to $12 and K. My father was a doctor with a pre-existing condition before Obamacare, which meant the only health insurance he could get was through his state's pool of last resort. It took 30% of his income, as he was self-employed and working in a very rural area. He was the only physician in his specialty for 75 miles, and when things got desperate for his patients would allow them to pay in piano lessons, vegetables, whatever instead of cash if they needed to. He had a stroke and died on his bathroom floor, but lived on life support for 4 more days. $350,000 and later, including a 7-tick helicopter flight for 30 miles, a man who dedicated his life to medicine and donated all of his organs to science died less than broke because of healthcare costs. My daughter had a febrile seizure at 1 year old. She seized for more than 30 minutes, and when the ergot stopped, she was paralyzed on her left side. The doctor thought she may have had a stroke, so they transported her via helicopter to a pediatric stroke unit. She did not have a stroke, and instead suffered from what was called Todd's Perces. Insurance refused to cover the $64 and K helicopter ride, as they deemed it medically unnecessary. They couldn't tell me what the alternative was, or what we should have had chosen instead, just that a helicopter ride wasn't it. It took us nearly a year, multiple appeals, and the support of the hospital's board of directors to get insurance to cover their own terms. My girlfriend had kidney failure as a child, and had been in dialysis for over 15 years. She graduated college and was working as a teacher. She had to stop due to complications with her condition and go on disability. This was prior to Obamacare, so we tried to get coverage from all the insurance companies since it's impossible for anyone to afford dialysis without insurance. Every single company declined to cover her due to her pre-existing condition. They essentially told her that she was too expensive to live. I worked with a girl that had kidney failure as a child pre-Obamacare. When she aged out of her parents' health plan and couldn't get her dad started selling coke to help her pay for treatment. America is nuts. Not me, but someone I know was diagnosed with cancer in her early 30s. Her oncologist found cancer cells in her lymph nodes, indicating that it had metastasized, so he ordered a full-body MRI to assess where it had spread to. Her insurance denied it because they said she was too young to be considered at risk, despite her actively having cancer. They did eventually approve it, but not without a lot of pressure from her doctor. My surgery to remove ovarian cancer surgically was deemed elective. The type wouldn't respond to chemo or radiation therapies, but since it wasn't going to immediately kill me, it was just cause I wanted it apparently. Had to pay $6 out of pocket. The problem is the vernacular. At least near me, any surgery that you come in for through the outside, meaning not in or already admitted, is considered elective. For example, someone comes in through the with hand numbness, found to have stenosis in the neck, they get surgery, it's considered urgent, doesn't need insurance approval. That same patient comes into our office, we book for surgery, it's considered elective. Makes zero sense. For a personal example, my heart ablation X2 were both considered elective. Like yes for funsies, I am choosing to ablate my heart. I do peer-to-peer all the time. And the medical staff I have to deal with from the insurance companies are probably the dumbest, lowest IQ staff I ever deal with. Don't even get me started. Try to explain to one of those donuts why a patient with a benign brain tumor needs yearly MRI screening, but they had one last year already, is enough to make me pull my own teeth out. I work for a DME company. We exist solely for the shareholders in hopes of packaging and selling the company to a larger company like Medtronic. Our income is largely, perhaps mostly, based on overbilling Medicare. We waive patient costs all the time on the basis that we will still make record profits year over year if Medicare pays their part, less than half the time they're asked to. This is happening at scale across the entire healthcare industry. The system is utterly vampiric. Healthcare could be so much cheaper if there wasn't an entire for-profit industry dedicated to exploiting our poorly constructed state health system. My wife just got her third denial for authorization from UHC for an MRI on her hip that her doctor has been trying to get her for over a year. The first reason, she didn't submit X-rays. Submitted X-rays, reapplied. The second reason, she hadn't done PT before the request. Submitted evidence that she has done PT on and off for 7 years, to no improvement, reapplied. The third reason, she needs to have X-rays done first. This AI auto-rejection cruelty is par for the course. I had an extremely similar chain with BCBS. I have shoulder issues where I have severe limitations in movement and my shoulders dislocate with a stiff gust of wind. I went to see an orthoptist and they took X-rays. The X-rays were clear, and they pretty much immediately knew it was a cartilage issue, so they scheduled me for an MRI. I got in for the MRI the next week and had the readings back within 2. Around that same time, BCBS sent me a rejection notice that I would need at least 6 weeks of PT before they would consider an MRI. This was after I already had the MRI back showing complex labral tearing the PT would do freaking nothing for. You can't freaking regrow cartilage, and they know that, so literally everyone knew that PT wouldn't do dick, but BCBS for some reason still wanted me to do it. I guess they figure people will get tired of trying. I'm a disabled vet though, so I was lucky enough to have the VA cover it without having to fight it out with insurance. I hope your wife gets the treatment she needs, and frick insurance. What's your insurance horror story? Feel free to share in the comments below. Please consider subscribing and liking for more daily videos.